So hi guys. Oh, oh no, I started with a burp. It's terrible because I just pressed record and so now it's it's time to record and then the first thing when they click on it is I should start again, but if you put off non-duality because the speaker burps, then maybe non-duality is not for you. Okay, so I have some events to sell. It's very important I sell them, otherwise Lisa and her organisers go broke. It's not about the money, Lisa. Babia, babia. That's what happens. I don't have a rich sugar daddy, although, I'm open. So, okay, next one. I don't even know what I'm doing. Okay, Ibiza. Next talks that I have are in Ibiza. Oh my God, I have such a good life, Ibiza. Yes, it's a very cute place where we do the talks. There's lots of ferries, not boats, ferries, and gnomes. The hotel is quite funky, and they have a little garden with little gnomes, and little fairies, and they have a shop of fairies. It's very cute. You should just come for that. That is the 20th of April to the 26th, and it's 6 full days of talks. Not the whole time, not the whole day and night. We break for lunch and stuff. It's the morning talk is 11 till 1:30, and then the evening talk is 5:30 till 7. But normally I go on more, but those are the advertised times. Okay, I think it's €150 for all the talks together. So it's very cheap. Well, it depends, what country you're from. If you're from England, that's very cheap. If you're from India, that's very expensive. It's all relative. Then the retreat after that I have is 7-day retreat in Greece, Crete. And on that one, I do 4 talks a day. I do 10 to 11 a.m., 11:30 to 12:30, and 5 to 6, and then 8:30 to 9:30. And for a single room, including food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, it's 600, excluding drinks. In English, excluding means they're not included. But I notice in the translation for European people, they think that means including. Excluding is no drinks, no alcohol. €490 for a double room, like sharing with one other. And that includes talks, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and the room. You can share with someone you know, or my organizer can pair you up with someone. I'm just going to spend 2 hours just doing advertisement. And then I have a retreat in Romania, the 30th of July till the 6th of August. And the prices are, hang on, I'm still on my website looking. So for a single room, it's €595. For sharing with one other or a couple, it's €445. And to share with 2 others, it's €345. And that includes 4 talks with Lisa every day, accommodation and breakfast, lunch and dinner. Drinks again are not included. Some people are a little reluctant about Romania, but it's really not like you imagine. It's a very beautiful country. Okay, and then I have a retreat in the Cotswolds, August the 17th to the 21st. And that's just a 450 Great British pounds for a single room, and that's the only option they have. It includes food, drinks, talks, a little bit of lovemaking, retreat in southern Spain, and then this one's for 2 weeks. This is the 18th of October to the 1st of November, and this one sold out really quickly last time. I only did a week there. So if you want to book it, hurry up. The booking. That's in Malaga. For 2 weeks, for a double room, sharing with one other, it's €850. For a single room, it's 1,090 for 14 days, and that includes food, drinks, not alcohol though, talks, and again a bit of lovemaking. I'm not telling you who you're going to be lovemaking with, but become clear on the retreats. And I don't just talk about non-duality on the retreat, I also do talk with people about their issues and use some therapeutic tools to help people become more balanced. And we also do some silent sitting. Last time we did some dance. That depends on whether you can in each venue. And it tends to be quite spontaneous as to what we do. It's like following the group. And sometimes we have some silence as well. But again, I tend to do that quite spontaneously. Depends what is happening. Wow, that was a lot of advertisement. I try to keep the retreats at a really fair price so that everybody has the opportunity to come on them. So if you are really broke, then the Romanian one's really good because you can share a triple room and food and accommodation. You wouldn't even get a hotel for that, let alone all those things. There's nothing that isn't it. Nothing. Everywhere you go, everything you do, every place you put your hand, you look upon, is it, is God. God, oneness, is reflecting itself everywhere. It's using these bodies in order to look through something at itself. It's using these bodies to experience itself. And it's done it through all these magical tricks of cause and effect and time. So it appeared as if this world has been growing and evolving over time, and that we are the humans that are this complicated part that's evolved, and the humans have now begun to have self-awareness. And through having self-awareness, they've begun to believe that they are these bodies, that that's who they are, through this ability to recognize the body in the mirror and to understand that it moved in time sitting on this chair. They began to then really believe that was who they are. It's not even them as such, it's just an energy that took over, making it really feel like they're independent people in the body. When really all there is beingness playing everything, pure, brilliant beingness. And beingness is totally empty of anything. It has no quality, and yet it's everything. And it's always been there. Because the body only has the memory to mostly this body, some bodies have memories of other bodies, but it mostly only has it to this body, you could say it's the same beingness that was there since 1, 2, 3, when you were 10, 20, when your heart was broken and ripped out and bleeding, when you were crying, when you were high on drugs, when you were in love, when it was beautiful, when you made love the first time, when you kissed the first time, when you made your first money, when you bought your first home. It was the same beingness. But we can only really say that in this body's life, because these memories are normally only designed to remember these bodies' lives, where really it's been eternity. Beingness has been everything for eternity. Some bodies, though, are sensitive, and they remember other lives, past lives. Just going to turn this radiator down. I always get concerned about it. It's getting too hot. It's an electric radiator. I'm not used to them. I like it nice and hot, but it feels like it will just combust. It's gone a bit black, you see. But I don't think that's good. But you see this blackness, even if it did combust into flame and eat everything in this room, everything got burnt, including me. Khaleesi got away, everything else got burnt, would be transformed into the same thing, beingness. But now just beingness as ashes, beingness as flames. It would be a new expression of energy. And the memory and the personality of this body would go, although that energy would go into other things. There's never really an end to something, but there wouldn't be this collective Lisa anymore, but it would be the same beingness experiencing itself in a different way. Isn't that wonderful? Who you truly are never dies. The base of everything never dies, but in the world of forms it's constant change. One thing changing to another. Even this body isn't the same body that started this talk. It's now taken in tea, and it's let out gas, and it's dropped skin. It's taking in different air. It's transforming continuously. There's nothing which ever stays the same, although it feels like, so the way we see stuff, it feels like things do stay the same because the rock seems to stay the same, but it's also changing continuously as well. And then in this very moment, like, although we see the appearance of movement, one thing to another, to another, to another, also in this very moment, nothing ever happened. This is all spontaneously appearing as and from emptiness, as emptiness. It's also like a dream at night, not happened, seemed to happen, but it's like, never really happened. I'm watching Khaleesi in the garden. I love the way she looks. But the owner has her grandchildren here today, and they don't really speak very good English. And I'm trying to tell them not to touch her, and they're all like... So she's on her lead out there, but have to watch, see if these grandchildren come up to her. And then they say, does she bite? And I'm like, well, not really. She doesn't bite, but she will half scare them if she doesn't want it anymore. She doesn't bite, but she goes suddenly to people that she doesn't know. It's so funny. She's so adorable. Everyone always wants to touch her. I'm like, not good, not good. Papia, papia. She's so sweet. Apparently she was going up, we can't understand each other that well because of the language, but apparently she was going up to the owner's windows because it's an old house, and kind of from some angles you can see in the window from the grass, and she just was peering her head up to, like, looking in. I think the owner was finding it very sweet. And this is such a wonderful dance. Look at it. There is so much, and it's appeared. It is happening. It's here. We're so convinced we're in control of our life and that this is our life, but it's a happening. Look, it already is. But the human suffers because it has this sense that it's in relationship with what is. And as soon as anything, any animal has that, it's afraid for its life. I am alive and I will die. And it feels separate and not enough, and it feels lack. Pardon me. And so when that person divides, when that person begins and there is a divide, there is always trying to fulfill that hole. And it manifests itself in apparent fun ways, like you feel not enough, so you look for this other person in order to complete you. And this is a really beautiful dance, but it's ultimately suffering. So you look for someone that you can love and have as yours. And when you get that, what a high joy that brings, what beauty that brings. And you're always looking for them to validate that. And that creates a lot of tension in the relationship. Because they have to be things in order to fulfill you. They have to be a certain way, they have to look a certain way, they have to do certain things in order to give you something. And it's the same with money. You feel scared of your survival, you feel scared of being separate, so you need money to make you feel safer. You think that this money will make you feel safe. And then you have this fear of what it will be to be without money, to be worthless, to be living on the street, to be freezing, to be not enough. And so you think that you have to obtain money and things to make you feel secure. And it's really crazy, because that activity of trying to make yourself feel secure makes you feel insecure. Isn't that crazy? It validates it more and more and increases that insecurity. So often the richer you are, the worse you feel about money. The richer people need more money in order to feel safe. And they normally have a worse sense of it. If you think about the famous teachers out there, like the Buddha and Ramana Maharshi, were both homeless wanderers. Ramana Maharshi, not really, he lived in a cave. But the Buddha was. He had nothing. And he did live in a society where that was more acceptable, actually, to be a monk and to wander around. But he still had to sleep out with the snakes. He still had to just walk until he came to a village to get food. He had no idea when he would next be eating or drinking. And I don't normally talk about personal path of Lisa that much, I do, but you most probably look at me and think, rich girl, she's never known poverty, or a lot of people ask me if I have rich parents or if I have a trust fund. And that isn't the case, although I have had quite well-off boyfriends, depending on what you call as wealth. Not that many. But I've pushed money to the absolute limit. I've got down to my last £5. I've even checked out caves to live in. This was when I was with Khaleesi, actually, a couple of years ago. And I was like, I could live here. And I had £5 left. And I had no idea. I had an event coming up, a talk. I had no idea if people would come. This was when I'd just come back to Europe, I think, and I'd spent all my money on getting Khaleesi from Thailand. And then I'd spent the rest of the money I had on a car, on this old Polo that my friend Nick sold me. And and I found these caves near Dartmoor. They were so beautiful, and I even videoed them, and I was like, well, if Ramana Maharshi did it, I can do it. And I got down to my last £5, and I had 3 weeks to go, and it worked out. I think I got a donation, and then people actually came to talks. So, and the reason I tell you that story is because I think that people like to listen to me because they think, oh, that's good. I don't need to change anything about the way I am. Look, she looks like a normal person that that lives in society. She doesn't look like Ramana Maharshi or the Buddha. I'm not saying I am them, but she doesn't look like she's done anything like them. So I can just carry on with my wealth. I can carry on with my particular lifestyle, and nothing needs to change. I gave up everything for this, everything. So if you've got that imagination about me, I think now part of the reason why this body dresses in a normal manner is because it can't be bothered to try and think of abnormal. It's too lazy, so it just dresses in what other people wear this way. It likes looking attractive, but it also likes the fact that it can do all these crazy things and fit into society. Like I get away with a lot of things that are very odd. Like I'm not married, I don't have kids, I don't always have a permanent residence. I do these talks on the internet. But I want to make it clear that this requires losing everything. You might not physically lose everything, but this requires happiness if you are totally rejected by society and you have no money left at all. So no love from the external, because that's the two things we're after, is love from the external and no money. And this is saying that it's not in either of those. And you can actually be, having been poor and rich, and being loved and not loved, there can be freedom in either. Because the amount that you've got in your bank balance, what does it matter now? Right now, what does it matter? If you're sleeping in the forest tonight, what does it matter if you're not living in time about where you're going to get food tomorrow? The freedom is, and these bodies have to die, these bodies have to rot. Wouldn't you rather have 10 days of freedom than a lifetime of money? The human is stupid. It picks length every time. I would rather have 100 years. 1 second. She broke her lead. What are you doing? Felice. 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 So if you think that you can take anything with you to the grave, if you think you can get through this, taking your money, taking your fame, taking your success, taking your intelligence, then you have no idea what this is about. Maybe it'd be better to go and do Christianity or something. Okay, so, hi Renati. Oh, thanks, Phyllis. I've been doing this really fun website. It's called Uno. I can only do a certain amount for free, and then I have to buy the Uno thing. And basically, you play games to learn French. It's a much better way for me to learn. I'm enjoying trying to beat the computer. It's absolutely pointless, but hi Lisa, can I book you for love making in Greece, or will it be decided by lots? Some pet. Will it be decided in lots? Hi Lisa, ha ha ha. That was the sweetest thing when you said, look, it already is. So sweet. Hey Nick. Oh, I forgot to text you today about talking. I got distracted by life. Hi George. Hey Jesse. Hey Law. Hey Loot. Hey Johan. Thanks, Johan. Hey Carol. Sure, Carol. We can talk. So if you would like to talk, if you've never been on stream, you have to ask me a question through Skype, which is Lisa Cairns 12. So just send me a friend request. Hey, Carol.
Hi, Lisa.
Hey.
How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
I am good. It's good to have you back. I missed you all the time you were doing your retreats and missed your talk.
Yeah, I was busy. It's nice to be back. I love doing you streams. I like your dress.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Did you read?
Yeah, so you wanted to talk about codependency in partners. What do you exactly mean by codependency? Just because people use it in different ways, which way do you mean?
Well,
like
yeah, I'm actually reading a book now, and the book talks that the term was first used in the 40s, and it was first used to women who used to be dependent on men who had problems with drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
And through time, as I think society got crazier, I believe the dependency would be or could be related to any kind of addiction. It could be work, it could be the man, the partner, or the woman.
And it means that they're codependent on their partner's addiction.
No. Then usually the codependency, as I'm reading the book and I was reading about it, it speaks about the women who are dependent on men who have dependency, and then they get, like, I think the origin of the word codependence comes from it. Like, so you're also dependent on someone who is dependent on something, and it doesn't matter what, and then you try to save and rescue this partner, and then I just texted you with the quote of your book, because it never, or nothing can ever complete it, right? So and then you try to save the person, and then you enter in that cycle in a relationship where you're trying to save and try to show the person, like, hey, look at what's going on. Like, you need to see the world differently. And it was just 5 minutes ago you were talking about that in a different way, but that we can't expect it coming from anywhere outside here, outside us. And we can't actually find it anywhere else outside us.
Yeah, and we do get into so many bizarre behaviours in trying to get that back. And I don't know that much about codependency, but from what I can relate it back to is that often people just repeat again and again what they had in childhood. So if they had a father, they're repeating what they had in childhood. You can hear me okay?
Wait a second, I'm going to close the window because I think there's noisy coming from outside. Just a second.
Do you need me to turn my video off, and then that might make it better if it's...
No, it's fine now. Yeah, it's fine. So we repeat
what we're taught in childhood. So we often look for the patterns which we're used to in childhood. So if we had a parent with addiction, or if we had a parent that was very depressed or something, and we were there to cheer them up, then often we then look for that in a partner. Not because we like it, but because that's what we're used to. Because really, we're all nothing. We're not anything. What these bodies do is they respond to whatever situation they're in. So everything's clean, and then these bodies respond to whatever comes in front of them. It's not like we're fixed people. Even if you don't talk about non-duality, like your personality is most probably different with your mom as to with your husband as to with your friends. There's a different personality that comes out. With certain people it likes them and it's very energetic, certain people it's bored and very quiet. There's not a solid personality there. There's response always happening. And then we're always being told so quickly that we have to be someone. And so what we do is we often pick those responses that we're used to. So if we're used to responding to a depressed person, we're used to being the person that's in relationship with someone that's depressed. So therefore it comes easily, that response is easy. If maybe we never knew anyone that's happy, so when we come in front of someone that's happy, there's not knowing how to respond, there's not knowing how to be. So then we're like, and what the body does is it keeps picking the one that's depressed because it's used to that. And it's not used to not being anything in particular, to just responding. It's not, so when it comes in front of someone it's not used to, so say a happy person, then it's not used to being that. And so it can't go into its familiar patterns of being. And it's not that it necessarily likes its familiar patterns, but those are the patterns that it's used to being. And we always want to feel secure. We always want to know what to be. Like so often, we hate the situation of going somewhere and not knowing what to be, of standing there like, oh, my Skype quit. It's funny things happening tonight. My Skype is now quitting. My Ustream keeps kicking me out of record. So I'm just going to force quit Skype. And let's see if that gets it back up and going. It's telling me I have to shut down my computer, which then means I have to shut down Ustream. Oh, there you go. That's an easy fix.
Hi.
Hey, yes, sorry, my Skype kicked you out. So I think that these
I can hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me?
I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You can.
You want to try and call me back? Oh well, I'll carry on for Carol, even though she can't hear me on Skype, because I hadn't finished with that. So, so the reason that we go to these codependent relationships is not necessarily because they bring us pleasure or because we're in love with that person, but because it's what we're used to. And in that being used to it, we know how to respond, we know what to be. And it doesn't bring up that pain of lack, of not knowing what to be, of being insecure, of not being enough. Because when we stand there not knowing what to be, and there's that sense of self there, it pierces that lack. It brings forward that lack of like, I'm not enough, I'm not being something. Like, so somebody comes up and speaks to you and you don't know what to be, you don't know the familiar way to respond. And then you think, oh, they didn't like me, I'm not enough, no one's going to love me. How am I... how am I going to show that I like them? All these thoughts of insecurity come up. But all of us are like that, always, in every instant there is nakedness. Hey, Carol! Can you hear me? You can hear me?
Hi, Lisa.
Um, But when it's seen that you aren't anything, and there is nothing that you need from this world, nothing. You don't need anything from anyone to be complete. Completion it's the nature of everything. It's just a separate person has got so used to living in time for its validation. And often with these people that you are in relationship with, often the truth is you might have been with them 30 years, but if you really asked yourself, you don't even know what love is. Like, people are often telling me they don't know what it is to be in love. They don't know what love is. And I think I used to be the same as well. I didn't know what love is. Even in a relationship, I appreciated them and I loved their personality, but I didn't really know what love was. And often, actually, we dislike them a bit as well when we're in a relationship. We dislike their behavior. We dislike their addiction. But we're too scared to not be that person that we are with them. We're too scared not to be someone. We imagine leaving them or breaking the situation, and we're afraid of that loneliness, of not being valid. You've always been told your whole life that there's something wrong with you, that you're not enough as you are, that whatever you do, more than likely you'll fail, so you have to abide by society's rules. Or not that you'll fail, but that you won't make it, or that you're not enough in some way, and it's completely untrue, and that you have to have all these things to be valid, to stand there and be valid, and none of it's true. Khaleesi never looks to others for validation, except me, but not really. Like, she does because I'm the owner, but, you know, if I tell her off, next instant she's like, duck, 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 duck. And we have to go through, because she's got her behavioural issues, we have to go through so many funny situations. I have to, like, I don't know, but something happens between me and us where we get put into many funky situations. Like today we're just walking along the pathway, and about a metre away 2 deer just jumped out in front of us and ran. It was beautiful. It was really beautiful. But this sends Khaleesi's system haywire. She's like, cannot compute. She didn't know what to do with herself. And so I had to yell at her, not in a nasty way, to come back to me, because I could see that she was so thrown by this. Like, it was like too much. She was scared and wanting to kill them at the same time. And so she comes back to me. But I had to use a forceful voice to say, come to me, come to me. And she comes back all like that. And then the next minute, and she's proud again. People say to me, you don't need to be so firm with her because she's very well behaved. And I'm like, trust me, she's well behaved because I'm firm. The owners today were telling me, no, let the kids stroke her. And I was like, if you've ever met Khaleesi, this is not a good idea. No, don't. And life works in mysterious ways. Like, it's not, I don't believe in the secret or the, I forget what it's called, positive intention or anything. But it's like, if you keep feeling enough, then that's always what you're, not enough. That's what we're always going to see. If you always feel less than, that's, even if you're a millionaire, even if you're famous and so many people love you, you'll only see what isn't enough. And even if you have 20,000 euros in the bank, you look at that maybe in comparison to your friends and you think that's not enough. That's all I have, 20,000 euros or whatever. I don't know if you have anything else you want to say, Carol. You could write it. Hi, Andrea. Good to see you. Hi, Steve. Nice to see you. Hey, Maria. So if you've got anything else you'd like to add to that, we could try calling again. Let's try. Hello, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I don't think my video is going to go on.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
At least we got sound.
Okay. Let's do this way. Yeah, I was just replying you by text that, yeah, I think about the part you said, what's known, it's usually the easier response, and and
you know what to be.
We tend to look for the easy things, and or at least what we know. So
to be
in that cycle that we always look for pleasure and or for what is easier, and I think that's human nature. So yeah, perhaps it's that. But the thing is that intellectually, it's possible to know that nothing can complete it. Sometimes the feeling. Hi.
It's funny, our connection
It's
tonight.
impossible today. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. We'll give it one last go, and if it fails again, we'll give up.
I can hear you now.
Yeah,
Can you hear
good.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. You were saying
It's bad.
there's
Wait.
been a bad connection.
I think my connection is okay. Do you think it's yours?
Yeah, it could be, could be. I am in the south of France. There's not really much I can do to improve it. It'd be better to turn your video off.
It's a very poor call. It's really poor.
Maybe somebody else can call in and we can see if it's my line. Yeah. There's nobody else that wants to call in, but Carol's going to try and write it. But I can only judge if it's my internet if someone else calls, and then I can see. I could, you see, move forward, which would make me nearer to the box. But then my name isn't Lisa for nothing. You see, lazy Lisa. Okay, Steve. Hey, Steve.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. How are you?
Sorry?
How are you? I think it's my connection.
It's very quiet.
Oh, it is?
I'll just turn you up. Just a sec. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but you can't hear me?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you now, yeah. I think it's it's okay, it's volume controls.
All right, then. I'm in the south of France, so there's a good chance that my connection's poor.
Oh, right, okay. What are you doing in the south of France?
Well, just I had to be somewhere, and I just thought, well, I'll go to the south of France. I like it down in the south of France, and I like the forests down here.
Yeah, it's really nice down there, isn't it?
Yeah.
It must be quite warm as well, hey?
Today, I got a bit of tan, actually. Today, I think it was maybe like 22 or 23. It was warm in the sunshine.
Yeah.
It was very nice. But then there was some other days when it rained, and it felt very cold.
Yeah. Which area are you in?
The Midi-Pyrenees, just near Toulouse.
Okay. Sorry?
Just near Toulouse.
Near Toulouse?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. I don't know what's gone on, but your Ustream is not work. Well, it's not moved. Can't see you moving. You know, the image is just still.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it's probably just like you say. It's just the connection's not brilliant.
Has it been like that for a long time?
Just as soon as it connected to Skype, it just went off. Just went still. Weird.
Oh well, let's have a look, see if other people think that, because I can refresh it. I can just move myself closer to the internet box.
What, the computer?
Yeah, the computer and my body. But I did do it on Wednesday night, and it worked really well. But now it's not. That's the way life goes.
I've just seen that you've got a new website, Lisa.
Yeah, it looks nice, right?
Sorry?
It looks nice.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's cool. And you're doing something in England as well?
Yeah.
A little retreat in England?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tend not to do it in England because the pound is so strong.
Yeah.
But this one was a really good deal and a really nice Christian group that were they were very kind and gave a very good price.
Yeah, oh, fantastic.
They're like a charity.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that the internet's going really bad. Oh, some people say that they can hear me perfectly
Okay.
and see me.
Well, I'll go off Skype because I want to I like to see you because you're not moving on my video now.
Okay, we'll just refresh it and then see what happens. But okay.
Okay, yeah.
Thanks. Okay, Julia. See if this works any better. Hello. Yeah, no. Is the Ustream working okay for you?
Yeah, it works really good.
Oh, okay.
And I hear everything. Just let's see if the camera gonna work.
Oh,
Otherwise, if I don't see you, we can just talk.
yeah, I don't think it's gonna work.
Yeah.
It didn't
I'm
work.
so happy to see you.
Yeah. It sounds really lovely what's happening with you, Julia.
Oh
Really
my God.
lovely.
Lisa, this is so intense.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, oh God. I guess I just have to share a little because I'm doing quite well, but just when I have a chance to speak with you, I want to share because I have moments where it a little overwhelms me.
Yeah.
You know, it first of all, like, it happens in so many layers. Like it happens physically, like or energetically, vibration, but it also happens, like, I don't know if the mentally would be the right word. But I have such a bizarre situations in my life. Like, it is impossible. Like, I went to school to, Lily goes to school in summer, so I had the first parents meeting at school, and I'm sitting there in the room, and I'm just in love with everyone. And I have to, like, hold myself back that I don't just start jumping and hugging everyone. And then I really do my best, like, to make an okay impression, because they're new parents and she's gonna be with them for 4 years. So I don't want them to think that like, there's a crazy mother. Or like some bizarre situation, like I would sit in a cafe and I would feel like there is no identity. But Lisa, this is so deep and this is so beyond the mind. It's not like that I'm imagining something or want something. It's just like I lose touch with everything, like my feeling of sense of me and sense of, like, what my life is about, and what it goes, like, so like it gets so out of touch that I sit and I literally don't know anymore, like, what is me, what is happening. But it's not like intellectual or kind of a mind fuck. It's more energetical,
yeah. Yeah, totally.
God.
And do you get scared when that happens?
No.
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 I know, that's good that you don't get scared, because that is it. It's a radical energetical shift. There's lots of different awakenings, but the one that you're doing that's happening now in the Julia body is the energetical awakening. And this is really radically different from the way that you've lived your life. And what it feels like is that you're being hollowed out. So you'll go through moments of, there'll be different ones that will happen. There'll be feeling totally in love with everyone, which will feel like going out, like you're so into everything. And then there will be the other one, which is totally hollow, where there's nothing which is in relationship. It's totally empty looking, and you can't even notice it. It's so bizarre. It's like it's happening, and there can be a registration in some bizarre way of thoughts, but it's not something that you're doing or anything. It's like a clearing out of the system. And so it goes both ways. It's like an emptying out, and it feels like the emptying out, you'll have to watch the video back to see my actions, is in the body kind of thing, but it's not really. And then a going out into all things. And normally this comes as like a pulsing, like it's happening and then it closes again, like this happens and then there's deep contraction. And normally what you'll find is there'll be deep contraction and then there'll be one of these openings. So you'll go through, this isn't to encourage deep contractions, but you'll be feeling like a burning energetically. There'll be a pain somewhere.
But I do have it as well.
Yeah, and
like
it'll be.
I don't necessarily hate someone on the outside. For me, it's more like I hate myself.
Yeah, and you'll feel it really strongly in the body somewhere, that hate. It will be a really energetical sensation. And then if that's stayed with and not run away from, but it's not your effort, if it's just kind of acknowledged and allowed to come out, then normally one of these energetical things happen again, of being the empty or the falling in love. And this can go on, sorry, Julia, but it can go on for a few years. It's really like, it takes time, because if you think of thousands and thousands of generations of investment, it's such a strong energy of being someone. And then what's beginning to happen is humanity's beginning to wake up, and it's like, it's so different from what the body's been used to. And this body is made up of information of thousands of generations. It's totally loss of center of anything in relationship. And then there's a total completion that takes over. I don't know if you've felt that yet. A completion that's so whole that nothing is needed, but yet the body still carries on and does its thing and moves towards pleasure, but there's nothing that's needed as well. But it's very confusing when you're awakening, because at one point you'll feel so in love and so complete, and then the next moment you'll be screaming and having a tantrum like you're like a 2-year-old. Like it's really quite an extreme period.
Yeah, I know.
And energetically, you won't be able to place yourself anywhere. You can't find a story that fits you.
No. But like I also remember you talked to Guy last time. I was listening, and then you said something about 7 years or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And then I started meditating with 14, and then I felt like, oh God, I'm so stupid and I'm so slow, like it's way beyond the 7 years. And I'm like,
but I think it's 7 years from the initial energetical awakening. I don't know. I mean, I don't. This is
whatever. No, I was just laughing.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to figure out. It's just,
and this was some sutra that somebody read to me one time, and I was like,
No, I was just laughing about being so helpless. Lisa, there's something else what is happening, like parallel to this.
Yeah.
It's also very intense shift. Like I feel also right now, I feel so energetical. It's hard for me to find words, but I want to share it with you, so I do my best.
Yeah.
Like from the outside, my life looks very comfortable and beautiful at the moment, and very fulfilling, and it haven't been like this for always. So it's just a period of time. And what is happening parallel, like I feel so fulfilled, I feel so deeply nourished that there is nowhere to go. You understand what I mean? Like I feel the life doesn't make sense anymore, but not in a negative way, not in a depressive way. It's more like throughout fulfillment. I had a bodywork session 2 days ago, and someone was giving me a massage. And then suddenly I felt like this body, while I was touching, I felt it can die just now. Yeah. Like life is full, like it's fulfilled. I don't have to die. but there was such a, I don't know if the let go would be a right word, but such a feeling of fulfillment.
Yeah.
That I felt everything which will happen after this moment would be kind of a repetition of what I already had before. So it would be a version. It also can be like, as I said, I'm not negative or depressed. I'm not against life and against going on. But it felt like a deep knowing that whatever would come, like I would know it somehow already. Do you understand what I'm talking, or I'm talking nonsense?
No, I understand. I think your brain is interpreting it in the wrong way. But I understand the feeling. And the feeling is you have done everything, because this is this is going to sound bizarre, and I'm most probably not going to get this into words very well, but in a way, as beingness, you have. because you're not Julia, you're not just Julia's life, you've played every role and you've done everything. And now I think when the human wakes up, it is like the end. Like it is like the end of that, because there's nothing left that could bring you anything anymore. I think it's a really beautiful thing.
But this is what I feel at the end. It doesn't matter if body dies or not. There was like more inner, like I don't care how long it has to carry or not. But it was like inner sense what you described, that I had it all. You know, I know it all. I know pain. I know. Like it's just.
It's beautiful.
It just would repeat. It would be a version of what I know already. You know, like as if you watched all the films.
Somewhere.
And
It's
then,
to being it. Oh, hello.
Yeah. No, I'm totally like drunk with your words.
Me too.
Oh God. Oh, I love you so much, Lisa. I'm so crazy about you.
I'm like when you speak. You can't see me, but I'm having a celebration over here.
Okay.
Because this has to happen. Everything you're describing has to be like that. I know it can feel. I remember periods where I had to get up and go for a walk in the middle of the night because I had so much energy, like just walking and like there was so much, and I was like, there was nowhere for me to put it in. Like life was happening, but it was just intense for the body. It was like overload. But it's what has to happen, and then finally poof, and then there's this radical shift that will happen. It's like at the moment, it's like, whoo, you can't see what I'm doing, you have to watch it back, but it's like a pulsating in and out, like it's being tasted and then back and then tasted, and you can't make sense of it in the mind because you can never remember one of those experiences correctly or accurately because it doesn't fit into words.
Yeah. And I said that I listen to you for hours, like every day, and the strongest message. Actually, I wanted to tell you this also. Like, by the way, it's not so important, but because I started meditating with 14, like I had lots of different experiences, or like silence or bliss or whatever, love, whatever. But it always was happening to me. And this is the core change. Like since I met you, everything was happening to me. Like being more loving, holding my emotions, healing my trauma, blah blah blah. Everything was happening to me. And since I listened to you, this message that there is no one, or it happens to no one. It's just like it feels as if it takes the ground under my feet, and like all my story, all my experiences, all my what I do, what I don't do, what I feel, what I don't feel, how I evolve or don't evolve. Like there's just no one that's evolving. And this message is you say sometimes that people get depressed or they think, oh, there's nothing to do, but for me it's like the most powerful thing I ever heard.
But I think also the difference with you as compared to other people is beforehand you and you with Osho work, you did a lot of balancing Julia out. So you were aware of that, those thought patterns, and you were aware of going negative. So there wasn't. So Julia, when she came to this, the personality of Julia was quite even, or more even and less neurotic than most people. So when hearing this, there wasn't the trying to hold it on as a new identity. Like it already, was quite clear a lot of things. So that's really wonderful that it was heard like that, because it's such a beautiful message.
It's the best message I ever heard. It's like I can't get enough. I'm like Lisa, please just talk about this. Lisa, say there is no one. Like, please say.
Nice. Oh, lovely to speak with you, Julia.
Wow, thank you so much, Lisa.
Send you lots of love.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye. I get so excited. We just both turn into squeaking bobs. So I hope that that everything is working now well with the Ustream and the chat. It's always a bit chaotic though whenever I do a talk. I'm up and down and I'm off chasing Khaleesi and then I'm off speaking to Paul or something, so that's always the way it is. I have lots of people calling now. Elango is calling. But Elango, if I take your call... Okay. Hi, Elango. Elango.
Hello.
Hi, Elango. Just
Hello.
let me quit Skype and then turn it back on again and then you'll be able to see my picture. Okay, I'll call you back. Is she being a good girl? Is she being a good girl? Is she being a good girl? No more chasing the cats. I take you, Andrea, after Elango. I won't let Elango be on the whole time. But because he's in India, I know that it's late for him. Is she being a good girl? Hey, Elango!
Hello.
Hello. You can hear me okay?
Yeah, 1 second. I'm just
Okay.
muting your stream. Yeah. One second. The video. What's this? Just a second.
Hey!
Hello. Thanks for calling.
That's okay. And it's okay, the Skype connection?
Pardon?
Is the Skype connection okay?
Yeah, very much.
Okay. If it gets stuck, just tell me.
Yeah, you're in France now, is it?
Yeah, in the south of France.
Okay.
Well, I bet it's very hot in Chennai now. I remember being in Tiruvannamalai in April and it was so hot.
Not yet very hot.
Oh, not yet very. It's the hottest I've ever experienced in Tiruvannamalai. I think it was in April.
You have been here, is it?
In April, I was in Tiruvannamalai and the dry heat, I'd never experienced anything that hot. It almost felt like it burnt as you breathed in.
Which year was it?
In Tiruvannamalai. Oh, which year? Maybe 2011 or 12 or 10.
How many times were you here?
Oh, I've been here many times, like 8 or 9 times. But this one particular year in April, it was so hot.
But was it Tiruvannamalai you have been 8 or 9 times?
Yeah.
What was the reason which drew you to Tiruvannamalai? Because Bombay would have been Ramesh.
Yeah, I think it was just to visit friends at first, because everyone was going there because of Ramana Maharshi's ashram, and then I just liked it, sort of. I mean, I also didn't like it as well. It's more comfortable in Mumbai.
People say, I mean, it has got a certain vibration. Is it so? Did you,
I don't know, but I liked it. There was something I liked about it, and I liked the countryside and the nature. When I used to go, you used to be able to walk on the mountain and around it, but I think they've stopped that now.
No, they allow that.
They've allowed it again?
Yeah, they still allow that.
And there's something I love about India as well, but also it's very different for a white woman India.
What is it that you like about India?
Well, it's so different. And I like the way that a lot of life is outside. I like it the way that people stand around the chai bars, and there's a lot of activity on the streets. Western societies aren't so much like that anymore. I like all the colours and the life. Like there's a lot of life happening there, like a lot of human life happening there. But there's also some real cruel, I've seen the most cruelest and saddest things in India as well. And poverty, like really sad, cruel things as well. It's like the best of both worlds. There's so much beauty and nature and fun and life and happiness, and then there's also a real sad side as well with the poverty.
So what would be your advice?
Yes.
What
About
would be your
what?
advice? About life.
About life. Well, it depends on the person I'm speaking to, but if I was speaking to a seeker, my advice would be to listen to non-duality. It's the most beautifully profound subject there is. But not listen intellectually, listen because there's a love for it. If it's intellectual, it just becomes a new concept. I mean, because the heart responds to it. Almost like the way that you responded when you were younger to your lover or something. Like there's a response on the heart level.
Meaning emotionally?
Yeah, a sensation of love, yeah. Even though in the end that love stops being personal, but it's kind of like that's the way you first start truly listening to it, is through loving it. But it's not, then eventually it stops being you loving it, and then all that's left is love. But at first you hear it, and then you feel like you love it. Because you hear the truth, you hear non-duality being spoken, and then it feels like a love for it, or it feels like something, an energy going towards it. But really, there's nobody in here and there's nothing out there. What's happening when non-duality is being spoken, truly, is that it's being reminded of that freedom, that boundlessness, but it starts by as if you love it. And it's the same when you love art, or when you love music, or when you love your lover. You think it's them, but actually it's a reflection and reminding you of the wholeness of God. But you then think in your mind it's because of that lover, it's because of the art, and then the person tries to contain it and own it. And love happens because there is no boundaries in that which it's hearing or looking at. Like love is boundaryless. The only way love can be experienced is when everything begins to crumble. Like true love is when it begins to crumble, the someone loving. You see, when you meet your lover, that woman or man that you just overwhelmed by, you completely forget yourself. When you hear the perfect piece of music, you forget yourself, and that's why it's called love, because there's no you anymore. There's no boundary on anything. But then the seeker comes back and says, I'm going to own that, I'm going to become a musician, I'm going to marry that woman. And then it kills it. It kills that beauty that it had by trying to own it. And then it always gets into this cycle of that which it loves, it strangles and tries to own.
Yes?
I was just looking at Khaleesi to make sure she's not off killing the owner's cat.
So in your talks, you talk, you give like verbal communication.
And the verbal's got like a certain part to it, like the explaining intellectually of non-duality. But the most important bit, particularly with me as a speaker, is the resonance of that love. Like that remembering, that resonance of the love. I can explain it to an extent intellectually, but there's most probably other non-duality speakers that can do a better job explaining it intellectually. The most important part is that love that's being revealed, that stillness that's being revealed.
So you speak to us verbally, and through words you tell us to understand it intellectually and then drop it, is it?
Well, no,
Something like that?
understanding it intellectually is it's good for the intellect to understand it intellectually, but the true message is the resonance with that love, which has got nothing to do with the intellect. But understanding it intellectually has a part, like the mind understanding it has a little part to it, but it's not very important. The most important part is that remembering that love, like you're listening to me speak, and there's a moment where, and it feels like on the tip of your tongue. That's the most important part.
So what is this love you're talking about?
This
the
love,
the love that we know of is usually it's
subject object.
it's
Yeah.
the human love.
Yeah.
Subject of to a human being, to money, to power,
Yeah.
blah blah blah.
This isn't
the
that.
love that you're talking.
This love is pure beingness. It's beingness. It's what makes up everything. And beingness is never found anywhere. So it's not a feeling, a sensation, a thought. It's pure and it's empty. And then it's everything. And it's always been there. It's always been beingness. Your emotions, your thoughts, your sensations have changed. And when waking up happens, it's like that beingness stops being hidden and stops being in the background, and it pierces through. And then all that's left is intimacy, is this love. And that's what always was everything. And that love is cannot contain anything. Beingness cannot own anything. It is everything. It cannot hold on to anything. It is everything.
Is that love equated with happiness and bliss and joy
In the effect
and ecstasy?
the effect in the body is often when that happens to no one, but when that body stops identifying with being someone, the effect in the body is normally more happiness, more joy, more peace. But it's not.
But it is not.
But it isn't that. That's the effect. That's the side effect in the body. I can't guarantee that. I've met many people that claim to have had no self, and they don't always seem that happy, so I can't guarantee that. But what happened here was the effect in the body was a lot more relaxation, a lot more happiness, a lot more joy. But I don't know if other people can see that. Like, I don't know if that comes across to other people.
During awakening, is it that your emotions get skyrocketing? For example, if you get angry, you really blow your top, or is that the opposite of awakening?
No, often that does happen in awakening. The emotions become more intense. They become more intense in awakening. Yeah.
It is scary.
Yeah, because you've got less filters. You see, when you were young, when the identity started, you were then told by your parents not to have emotions, because when you have an emotion, you're not such a good worker. You see, if you suddenly have an anger tantrum for an hour, it's painful for your parents, and you're not so good at doing things. If you can control your emotions, then you're much better at working. And that's what our society is geared towards. Our current society, even in India or in the UK, is geared towards making a workforce. My society is totally based around the idea of being educated and then going into the working system. It does. Huh?
Yeah.
And so what then, if you want to train a society in doing that, you have to teach them to not have emotions and feelings, because the emotions and feelings will disrupt the workforce. You can't be working as a computer programmer and then suddenly start crying. It's inappropriate to cry at work. So then when awakening happens, often that lid which has been holding down all the emotions begins to thin, and then all the emotions come up, and the person, even though the person is still separate, it stops caring what the neighbour thinks. It stops caring what people think about it. It stops caring about whether it will be fired so much. And so all the emotions come to the surface. There's not such a whole thing on them saying, if you do this, all these bad things will happen. And so with this idea that these bad things won't happen, then they come up like a volcano. There's less repressing them.
So can we say that you become more childlike?
Yes, more childlike. I found
more
what
animal.
happened. I found though what happened though. Pardon?
Animal-like.
Yeah.
Child and animals are together, no?
They're,
something like that?
Yeah. But I found what happened after Bali is that before that my emotions had been coming up and and then after Bali there seemed to be then after that a relaxing of the traumas in this body, so relaxing of a lot of the conditions of this body. So say a fear around a particular thing, it just began to relax over time. So the intensity of responses to things all began to relax. Even though when I read something sad or I see something beautiful, I still might start crying. And if I get angry, there might be shouting. Everything relaxed a lot more.
Now do you get angry?
Huh?
Now do you get angry?
I do get angry, yes.
Like a volcano?
Not much, no, not that big. When before Bali, it was big.
Before Bali?
Yeah, big like a volcano, like bah! But now,
Chilled out?
not really, no, not much. I mean, sometimes with me and Paul, when we wrote this script together, he wasn't very good at taking my advice, and I was the more experienced with one. And so sometimes he was good at taking my advice, but sometimes he wasn't so good. And it wasn't in his language either, so I would snap at him, but I don't know if I'd really get angry. It'd be like, ugh, like a snapping. Oh, and sometimes with Khaleesi I shout, but that's more not out of anger, it's more because she is going to do something that will get me in a lot of trouble. I'm like, no, Khaleesi! Huh?
Before Bali?
Before Bali, I had big emotions, like lots of anger came up. Anger towards God, anger towards my partner, crying, sadness. Then after Bali, that all relaxed. But I do notice that any left traumas in the body get challenged and relaxed. Like they.
How do you strike a balance living in a society where you are like a soldier? That's what some of the masters have said. No, this society treats you like a soldier. It's like left, right, front, forward, march, and fire. Yeah. That's what the society wants. But then in awakening, you turn more childlike. You become like you're living in two worlds.
Yeah.
It's kind of challenging. And
it takes immense amount of strength. Immense amount of strength, but it's not a personal thing. You don't have to worry. It's not a Lango strength, but the strength will come because what you've got to do is you've got to step away from the crowd, and you've got to be disliked. But funny enough, actually, then you'll find that people actually begin to really love you as well. The more that you become authentically a Lango rather than trying to be a Lango, people will love that innocence as well. But it does take strength because people will really point their fingers at you. And I mean, if you look up saints in the past, they get killed, like for stepping away from the crowd. It's a huge thing, and it really disturbs people around you because they're used to you being a certain way. But every time the emotion comes up and the fear comes up, you just go back to the emotion. You don't let it haunt you. So the emotion of lack comes up, that you're not enough and that everyone's going to hate you, and you just see that it's coming from emotion. It's not actually coming from them hating you. It's because you have that emotion. So you just go back and you let that emotion come out, like, I'm not enough, no one will love me, everyone's going to hate me. You don't let that emotion threaten you because it's the emotion that threatens you, not them disliking you. And the same with the fear.
You have been frequently telling about the emotion of lack.
Yeah.
And I was telling you, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's not coming to my surface, but my primary emotion is fear.
Oh yeah, well some will have more than others.
What is the relationship between fear and lack? Because I keep looking at, and probably because things are happening well now, maybe for a couple of years or something, this fear of lack is not coming, but the fear of, for example, there is a situation professionally, you just blow your top and get things done. After you start thinking, maybe I shouldn't have done this, like what will happen? But then what's happening now is I don't carry forward that to the next session.
Yeah.
Earlier, that used to keep on,
but
come on to the.
You could interpret that both ways. You could interpret that one as fear or lack, because what if I'd done it differently could also be lack.
What is the connection? What is the connection between fear and lack?
Because that sense that you could have done it differently implies that you feel in some way you've done something wrong, which comes from lack actually, that in some way there is something wrong with you. but it manifests as the sensation and the feeling of fear. But you could, in a way, you could see that lack and fear are very similar in a lot of ways.
Then what do? Just be with it.
Well, my advice, although there's not really someone doing it, but when those emotions come on, you just stay with the emotion. So you just take a moment when everyone goes out of the room and you just acknowledge what you feel. Rather than thinking it's because of the situation and because of what's happened, you just acknowledge, I feel lack, I feel not enough, that it's the feeling that's the problem, not the actual situation. It's actually the feeling that comes from separation. As soon as you feel separate, it interprets it in fear or lack.
And the feeling is involuntary. It's not within your control.
No, and it's not really under your control to acknowledge it. But like I could say to you, pass me the salt. That robot's interactive and it can pass the salt. So just stay with the feelings. And it's not about destination. It's not about getting somewhere. But it's the acknowledgement that nothing in the world can hurt you. Nothing. There's nothing that can hurt you. What hurts you is separation, and then the two primary emotions of fear or lack that come from it. And then they are never acknowledged, but what's acknowledged on the surface is anxiety and trying to fix it, and the obsession with thoughts. And so in the acknowledgement, in them coming to the surface, in them being conscious, then it means that there won't be such a strong energy acting out all the time, trying to get validation from the flow. So that means those emotions won't grow so strong. They're allowed to be as they are and come up and pass through. But this isn't that part of me explaining this bit about the emotions, isn't about getting to enlightenment. Forget getting to enlightenment. That's not something about you, but that's what we're talking about. But that's about the love. Listen to non-duality for the love, and enlightenment, that happens, and awakening, that happens. That's it. But this side will balance the person more and stop the person being so neurotic and suffering so much, because it won't be following out. It's like giving a treat to the dog every time it has fear. If you give a treat to the dog every time it has fear, it will encourage the emotion of fear. And that's what's happened in the human. It's constantly given a treat for lack and fear. Society has always said, yes, you're not enough, and yes, you've got to be scared of the future. So you've constantly been given cookies. So those emotions have been encouraged. Rather than joy and bliss and spontaneity, the two primary things that have been encouraged is lack and fear.
Excuse me, what did you say? You give what to the dog? Treat.
Treat. Every time it experiences fear, you're encouraging the sensation of fear. And in humanity, your parents have patted you on the head for feeling fear. They don't know it, but they've said, yes, you've got to be afraid for the future. Yes, you've got to work for the future. Yes, you've got to find love in the future. Yes, you've got to find a wife. You've got to have kids. They've always encouraged time. And so the mind's got obsessed with it.
No, excuse me, but generally parents say suppose you're scared of the darkness when you're a child.
Yeah.
They say, don't fear the darkness. That's what we say. Overcome your fears.
They might say that, but they encourage it by telling you that you've got to work hard at school in order to be successful when you're older. That is totally based on fear.
Okay, another question now directly to Lisa.
Yeah, or directly to Lisa.
Yeah. Because I was asking about myself all this while. We acknowledge this is a robotic cosmos. The kaleidoscope of forms happening is automatic.
Yeah.
How come Lisa Cairns, who's enlightened, quote unquote, when she writes a script with Paul, gets angry and snaps with Paul, when she knows it is an automatic script?
Oh, just because she does that. She doesn't, because you think that in some way it's Lisa that got enlightened. It's not, I'm not anymore a solid person that's going from moment to moment. There is just response happening in every moment. So in that moment, Paul was saying this was better, and I was like, no, this is better, this is better, this is better, this is how you do it, this is how you do it. And then finally it was like, shut up, this is how you do it. Like, but it's not like I think of myself as this is enlightenment or this isn't enlightenment. There is a response happening. Maybe after another 20 years, the personality of Lisa will be more balanced and will be less snappy, but it's not really that snappy now. But like, if you ask Paul, it's quite an even personality, but maybe in another 20 years, snapping wouldn't come out. Like, I do think that the body then goes through a process of becoming more and more balanced. So you never know. But it's not like I look at myself as enlightened or anything. There is just what's happening. So I don't look and think this is acceptable or this isn't. There's just an energy that bursts out that's like ba 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 ba.
And that's not you.
It's the happening. It's like one thing and then another thing. And if I was with other people, I'd most probably be more snappy, to be honest with you. Paul's a really cool character to be with, but there's some characters that demand constant attention, and I would tell them very quickly to stop. If I was living in a very tight space with a character that was demanding, I would tell them very directly, very quickly. With Paul, Paul got very little snapping, also because his energy was very pure in a way. Like he wasn't needy and he wasn't always trying to get me to be different things. There was a little bit, but not very much. Whereas some energies are so time consuming and needy and wanting attention.
Okay. I think the talk before the last, you were talking about relationships, and you said in your personal experience, like you can't have a life partner when you're awakening who's not awakening. Is that true?
I think that sometimes, I think that life sometimes puts people that are waking up with, like,
normal people.
Not people that are waking up. So somebody that's like waking up or been on this path, it sometimes gets put with somebody that is already popped, and it's like a process that's happening. But I think in general, if somebody's really heavily identified, it's going to be very hard, because if I'm around somebody that's suffering a lot, why would I stay with them?
Because you love them, probably. I mean, normal human way. Romeo and Juliet.
But I don't. I just respond to what's ever happening in the moment. Love is. And so if they're constantly presenting darkness, then my body's going to go away from them. My body will most probably go back to them to talk about non-duality. But why would my body want to stay around constant darkness? Because somebody that's in darkness is always going to be projecting stuff onto you and always going to be trying to get you to identify. My body would move away from those cages quite quickly. We'd have thought. But sometimes it's we have to do situations like we're in the aeroplane, or there's lots of different situations which makes you be with people that are very heavily identified, and then that's what happens, and there can't be a moving away from them.
How do we identify people who are sort of identified? It's very simple, is it?
It gets less simple. People that are awakening, and like when they're awakening, it's more complicated to tell if they're still awakening and there's still lots of change happening, and not. But I can see very quickly when somebody's heavily identified. Like
what would be the symptoms of illness?
They would moan a lot. They would look negatively on life. Their face. And energetically you can just tell. But when somebody's awakening, that's more confusing. Because they can be so open and expansive and then close, and that's more, I mean, when they're awakening, it's confusing. You can't really tell. But when they're heavily identified, there can be a recognition. But their face is like... their face is unhappy. You can just see it, but I'm very sensitive, so maybe it's not something that everyone can see.
And you were saying in the recent talks, like I think the talk before this, this sense of separation happened about 1.5 to 2 years when a child is 1.5 to 2 years, when the words or the language was formed.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's what my sense is. Yeah.
Many people say, and you're sort of formed on to that, and which means that the sounds which the baby produced and which the baby heard from the parents became Papa, Mama, I, so and so, and then they started to form into a software.
Yeah.
And that the verbal cage was created.
Yeah, it's so cute. My friend's child at the moment, he can only speak about himself in the third person. He's about 1 year and 8 months old, and his name's Charlie. He's like, Charlie said no, Charlie would like to go on the sofa. So I don't think that it's totally the energetic. I think it's beginning, but I don't think it's actually happened. Like, I think he still can't identify with Charlie, but he can't speak about himself as himself. He says, Charlie wants this, Charlie does this. It's really cute.
So this self, this me was created with the parents and the society telling the child, you are separate, sort of, right? That's what you said. You said language and words created this false sense of me.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
Correct. Now the antidote to this false sense of me is actually silence then ultimately, which can decontaminate this verbal cage we have built around ourselves. I am Ilango, I am so and so.
Yes, go and live in the forest.
Huh?
Go and live in the forest.
Go and live in the forest.
I know, I'm joking,
Yeah.
I'm joking. But yes,
Yeah,
I mean, then that's a very famous Buddhist story, isn't it? The one that I always tell you about the Buddha said to
Lisa says to Ilango. Buddha
Lisa
said
says
to that.
to whatever his name was, it's not me. I'm perfectly still. It's you that's moving too fast. Yes, it's silence. It's stillness. But that silence and stillness is here. But yeah, a wise thing would be to take some time away from humanity. But your mind might go crazy at first, and you might run out of the forest in fear. Your mind won't be like.
Oh no, the human being is now an urban jungle, concrete jungle.
Yeah.
So learn to live in the jungle with the silence inside you.
Whichever one. It's not you that's got to learn it, but whichever one. But also living in the forest, taking a break from living in the city would be incredibly healthy for the body. But I reckon most people's minds would go so insane because they're so used to stimulation. They would sit there and not know what to do with themselves. I did
How
this.
was your experience in Australia, where you were sort of in the jungle,
Forest,
right? Sort of.
Forest. Well, they actually called it bush in Australia. I lived in the bush.
Over 2-3 years.
Yeah, and at first what happened?
What is a bush? What is a bush?
A bush is a forest. They
There
just
is,
call
there is no land around. There is no civilization around. There are no neighbors.
There was neighbours, but not very many. But part of the forest land went for thousands of kilometres. We backed onto a park, a bush park, forest park. Well, at first, when I first went to live there, my mind began to fixate on how annoying Roger was. That's what began
One second. How closest was the nearest town?
How close? Oh, not that far actually, because where I lived in Perth, outside of Perth, it's the most remote city in the whole world. So when you drive out of the city, there's nothing. So we were only like an hour's drive from Perth, the city, but you just drive out from it and then it just goes into nothingness.
Okay,
We're not used to that in India or the Europe. It's so, the most remote city in the world. It kind of explains it.
You were telling me you used to get annoyed with Roger.
Yes, I used to fixate on how annoying he was at first. Then I would fixate on how annoying the environment was. This was first. And then after I'd say about 6 months, I began to see without a doubt that it was all the craziness of Lisa, which is huge. That's a huge thing, because even though most people have been told that, they don't believe it. They still believe it's their environment. But then when you actually go to and you wipe out everything and you just live in a forest with 2 dogs and Roger, you really, really begin to see that your mind is insane. Insane. And it will never, ever be happy, the mind. The separate self will never be happy. So it took about 6 months before I totally surrendered to that. But I tried. I blamed the environment, I blamed the birds, I blamed the hot tub, I blamed the garden, I blamed Roger. And there wasn't always blaming them, but I tried to blame the environment. I blamed being there, I blamed all these different things. And then after about 6 months, I 100% saw that it was just the craziness of my Lisa's mind. It was craziness of Lisa. And that no matter what she got, she would never be fulfilled. But this was like one of those seeings where it's not intellectual, it's known without a doubt. And that's huge. Most people that I speak to in non-duality, not like there's loads of them that aren't like this, but most people, they still believe that there's still something in the world that can make it better. To get to that point where
What was
you
the
see
insanity?
there's nothing which will satisfy that craziness. That craziness is
What was the
all...
insanity?
Sorry?
What was the insanity that you realized for those 6 months, and how did you overcome that insanity as a person before Bali?
What did I'd done
What was the
I'd done many years of seeking, so I knew intellectually that it was the way in which I saw the world that was the problem. I knew I was the problem intellectually, but then that was like an energetic realization. It was so clear, because normally we realize it energetically, but then we still believe that it's something in the world that's it. Yeah?
How did the intellectual understanding transform into an energetic realization? It was automatic?
It just happened. It's like the flow of thing presents it. It stripped me of everything that I knew. At that point, I was a successful writer. I wasn't that successful, but I was successful within my, what's it called? Peers, within my craft. Like theatre writing isn't a very big industry, but I was successful in that industry. And I gave that up. I gave living in London. I gave my house up in London. I gave my job up. I gave everything up. I had such a cushy life in London. I gave my car up. I had a Mercedes.
Why?
Huh?
Why? So many things you gave up. Why?
Because I thought that this would lead me to freedom.
Australia.
Not exactly like that, but I was following freedom. I was trying to end my suffering, and I was fascinated by the way Roger spoke and by the way Ramesh spoke, and I couldn't turn my back on it. And to go back to my life in London, I had to turn my back on it.
Was it because, I don't know whether if I remember right, whether you spoke or I picked up from Ramesh or Roger's talks or books, or that Ramesh told you Roger's the right guy to guide you, probably.
Yeah.
Some sort of a beacon. And then you thought...
No. He didn't tell me that until after I'd given everything up. That was 6 or 7 months afterwards.
Ramesh or Roger?
Ramesh didn't tell me that in the beginning. Ramesh told me that after I'd already been living with Roger for about 8 months. This was like the 4th or 5th time I went to see him, and he said to me, "Just listen to Roger," and I was like, "Oh, come on," because as a partner, I found Roger really annoying. Like, Roger could be really beautiful, but he can also be really super annoying, if you've ever listened to his talks.
So you felt Roger as a teacher would probably lead you to freedom.
No, it wasn't quite like that. It wasn't quite like that.
So you left a lot of things, your professional career, your peer group, your Mercedes, London, blah blah blah, to go and live in a bush with somebody.
But I never.
Who's a scripting teacher? Who's a recognized, probably documented?
No, he wasn't. Teacher. He wasn't in any way. I just met him. I just met him in India. He wasn't. He used to teach to the neighbours there, but nobody knew of Roger. And I was never sure, even to this day, whether he was a psychopath or an enlightened person. I was never sure. I was like, but what happened when I was with him was he would annoy me so much that all my issues would be presented. And I was so fascinated by that burning. Like, Roger would take on nothing. So I would be walking along with him and he'd be pointing out all my issues, and I'd be like, "What about your issues? Look at you, you're not perfect." And he would just laugh. He would never ever get involved with me telling him about his issues. So what would happen was all the crap of Lisa would show, because I would want Roger to feel bad about himself. It was like he was pointing out my issues, so I'd be like, "Okay, let's make you feel bad about yourself." And he would never feel bad about him. Or if he did, he never showed it. He never gave in. And that giving in, I wasn't ever sure if it was enlightened or he was just so determined to be right. I wasn't ever positive. And then it was like everything of Lisa came out. And I knew that's what had to happen, that all my gunk had to come out. So this was my attraction to Roger more than anything. I don't...
So this guy was actually removing a trash into the recycle bin.
Sorry?
He was removing the trash.
I don't know. All I knew that when I was with him, I couldn't hide. He would I just became it was like, I loved the way that we spoke and I loved our conversations. Like when I first moved there, we would speak for 8 or 9 hours a day, but he also drove me insane. He drove me, but I was so willing to be insane. This takes such courage because I was so willing to go crazy. Everybody else is wanting non-duality, but they want to maintain sanity. I was so willing to go absolutely crazy, but the beautiful thing about Roger was he didn't turn his back on my craziness. I would go crazy and he'd be like, nature of the mind. And I would just be like not necessarily at him, but I was just so honest about everything. I would be like, I feel this, I feel that, I was just willing to totally expose myself. Most people want to keep their life running. They want to keep their job. They want to keep their money. They want to keep their sanity, or they want to keep their social persona. I was just totally at that point of fuck it. And so with Roger, we went through this process and One second. Oh, pardon. And then and that went on, and it just got less and less intense over the 3 years. But I would do it by myself as well. I would just go into the room and I would just completely be honest as to what I was in every moment. I'd be like, Roger, I want to kill you. You're so annoying. And I would say it, whereas most people, they would never say that. They would try and make Roger out to be wrong, or they would never admit their feelings, because if they admit their feelings, they lose the game. And in a way, I think this really balanced Lisa's personality.
Was he doing a sort of a psychoanalysis?
Who, Roger? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what he was doing. He would just point out all my issues.
So it was spiritual seeking which drew, made you leave your,
Yeah.
London.
What I liked about Roger was that I liked the way he spoke, and I liked the way that he was like a pit bull with my issues, and whether or not that was him deflecting his issues and projecting them on me, what it did was it made all my issues so obvious. Like it just brought everything up. I was like, bleh. And I liked that. I liked it. I could feel the sense in it. Even though to everyone else it must have looked like I was crazy, I could feel the sense in it that there was nothing to be ashamed of what insanities Lisa was.
But that's what this civilized world is doing, putting a cloak of sanity, calling it civilization.
Yeah. And I just wasn't,
not the case.
And it wasn't me personally, but the energy did it. I was just so determined to step into the fire. I noticed by not speaking about my apparent process that people look at me and they think it was easy and that they think they can maintain their lives and get this. And it's not. Everything that you think you need has to be let go of. It doesn't necessarily mean that it has to disappear. But, I was so successful as a writer. I'd won so many awards, and I gave up for 10 years. I was so close to doing great things with writing, and I was like it really, I wrote something again, but there's not really the intention. That was more because of Paul and came recently. But I was prepared to be totally naked.
Okay, can I say then that your search for freedom was the one which drove you across the continent to meet Ramesh in Mumbai, and then go to Perth to be.
Yeah.
That was your search for freedom ultimately.
Yeah.
It was energetic.
And it was so strong. It was so strong. I was, at 21, I was willing to sit 10 hours in meditation. At 21, when all my friends were getting drunk and doing all these things, I was willing to spend 10 hours meditating. It was such a strong desire in this body. I was determined to give up everything for it. Anything. I would have killed myself for it.
what was your target as a seeker?
Originally it was
Like
for
us.
enlightenment, but then towards the end it was just to be happy. I was like, okay, I'll take happiness. I'll just take a more balanced personality. But originally it was enlightenment.
So what was enlightenment to Lisa 14 years ago when she was sitting down in meditation?
Enlightenment was like walking through walls, being telepathic, shining light, originally, when I first got into the subject. And then eventually I was like, I was happy to just become a more balanced version of myself, like a version of Lisa, more balanced. And that was that was eventually my game. And then I was like, if non-duality happens, or if that happens, then that's beautiful. But I'm happy to just go with a balanced Lisa. That was like, I was happy to go with a booby prize.
Then it becomes like we become hedonistic. Like we become hedonistic.
No,
like we'll happy
no. I saw happy with being Lisa. I didn't see it as being hedonistic. I saw it as just like releasing my shit and becoming a more conditioned, better Lisa. That's how I saw it. I didn't see it as materialistic or getting things. I never saw it as that. I saw happiness as becoming a less neurotic version of Lisa. That's what I saw happiness as. I didn't see happiness as getting money or any of those things.
Then, like what the Buddha said, happiness is equal to lack of suffering.
Yeah, but I didn't mean it like the Buddha meant. I meant as in like, if I still have a bit of shit coming up, that's okay. But if I get more even, then I'm happy. Just to be a more even personality and separate self. Yeah, but I still listen to non-duality, and I still would be like, I will happily take non-duality, but I'm also happy to take just a balanced Lisa. Like a more balanced. And with Roger, I became very balanced, like a lot more balanced as a personality.
But this balance is what the Buddha told 2000 years ago, to be in the middle part. When I meant hedonism, I meant it like that. I didn't mean like party, like alcohol, blah, blah, blah. So
I don't know.
you're going to go down.
I don't know what the Buddha meant by middle path, so I can't agree or disagree. Like I think that's a very complicated thing to just explain in a few sentences. But yeah, just become more balanced. Like I wasn't out drinking and partying. I was looking after my body. I was exercising. I was living in the countryside. I was working on my issues with my family and my brother and all those sorts of things. And I still loved non-duality, and I was still resonating and buzzing like crazy with non-duality, but I didn't have that as a goal anymore.
Did your friend circle start slowly evaporating?
Yeah, I lost everything. Who wants to be friends with a woman that doesn't want kids and doesn't want to get married? All my friends are in the kids and getting married. And who thinks that is absolute? I mean, if I'm honest, marriage, I think is like a retarded idea. Who wants to be friends?
Why are you against marriage? I am not for marriage. I'm asking you, why are you against marriage?
Because, well, in the West, the idea is that you're married for life, and that you commit to someone for life. And I just think that's really strange. If you got married and it was like, I commit to you for this moment with all my heart, I think that's beautiful. But you're committing for the next 50 years of life. I think that's really crazy. And then also we have this whole tradition of you give the woman away to a man. And I don't really understand that side of it either. But if the marriage was, I commit to you with all my love for now, then I would be into it. But that's normally not what it's like. Huh?
That's not a guarantee but that's not the guarantee for the next day, for the next week, or for the next month, year.
I think when you start saying for the next 50 years, it's based on fear and it's based on engaging each other. I don't think that's beautiful. I think that comes from fear and lack.
In the non-duality circles in India, who are into the old, the orthodox teaching of, this Indian spiritual Ramana Maharishi sort of, they say in spirituality, as you develop in spirituality, you're supposed to go and mingle with everybody. And, like for example, for me, literally, I'm not able to talk to my friends unless they come onto this wavelength. I've lost all my friends.
Yeah.
And they say like, what's happening to you? Why are you not coming and talking to us and things like that?
Yeah.
What is your advice on that?
I think it's quite natural.
It's okay.
Yeah, I think it's really natural.
Non-duality is okay.
Huh?
In non-duality, that's okay?
Yeah, there isn't really a process to it, but I think it's really natural that we normally have friends that validate where we are. And if that's not happening, then the friendship's going to fall away. Part of friendship is validating each other. It's totally the you don't get to take anyone with you. It's the Lone Ranger. Da 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 da. Yeah, you don't get to take
That's the
anyone.
Stone Ranger
Yeah.
walking into the sunset, is
Yeah.
it? Huh? How is it to be alone? How is it to be
Well,
alone?
eventually then it all disappears and then there's everything and you're not alone at all. But but when you think that you're somebody going through a process, then it is to be the Lone Ranger.
How do you advise a seeker, like when they come on to sort of a crossroad every day of their life where you're part of society, you're part of being a soldier for society, and then as this freedom starts enveloping you, you know that you're taking this, like putting all your bucks onto the one square, like a like a Las Vegas casino gambler.
Yeah.
Everything may go haywire the next day. You may lose everything.
Yeah.
But still, this is driving you.
1 second. The horse. Yeah. The horses just went past and I just had to stop her barking.
Is this the cast you're talking about? You're in the no. That is in USA, right? Isabel.
Yeah.
This looks like a castle you're saying.
Oh yeah, it's a bell tower, an old bell tower. I think it's like 5, 6, 7, maybe 700 years old. It's really old. It's beautiful.
So when fear comes, stay with the fear.
The wise thing to do is always go back to the emotion rather than the story that's playing on top. The emotion that's under to. So when you're in your social situation and you feel like you might be losing everything, then you just go, rather than staying on the stories of I'm going to lose everything, this is bad, what's am I doing, this is stupid, just go back to the sensation of fear and just sit it out until that fear passes. And then when that fear passes, you won't any longer be scared of what's happening. It will be what it is. There's never any truth in anything you feel, but it keeps saying this is the truth, this is the truth.
Is there a talk this Wednesday and Sunday, coming Sunday?
Yes. Yep. On Wednesday.
Next Sunday also.
And next Sunday as well. Yeah. And then I'm off to Ibiza for a week, I think. So then there's no talks. But yeah, for this next 2 months, I'm here pretty much most of the time. Just this Ibiza break. But I said I would answer Andrea's question as well, so I will leave you now.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Oh, with pleasure, Lango. Bye.
Bye.
Hey Loren. Hey Peta. Hey Maria. Oh, you called. I don't know if I'll get time to call you Maria. Or if anyone else. I think Andrea will be my last call because I've been on for hours, I think. Yak, yak, yak. Can talk about anything, Paul would say. Even though my story is an illusion now, like all there is this, there's a bit more of talking about it because after years of teaching now and speaking with people, I see that people are always getting stuck in certain places. They listen to me and they think, oh, nothing needs to change, or so it's always got to be a changing teaching, really. So if you get comfortable with the way I'm speaking, I've got to change it again because there is nowhere to rest. There's no idea that can be truth, even know me. People start coming to me and repeating know me too much, then I'm gonna, oh, well, there is a me or something. Don't know if I'll say it like that, but there's nowhere to sit and rest in this. I suppose this is why a live speaker is really good to go to, because in a book it will always be one way. You can't change it, but the live speaker can keep changing to whatever keeps coming back to them. And now after a certain amount of years speaking, what I see is that people are taking this to stay in their story. They're saying there is no me, so I can't help it, so it's got to be like this, or blah, 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 blah. They use it to validate their own apathy. But the most important bit beyond the intellect is the love, like the tasting of that love, because that's who you truly are. And it's not your love, it's not about you, it is everything. Life is love. It's just you see it as subject, object, and then it's fear and safety, beauty and ugliness, me and you, right and wrong. But when that's not there, then it's just love, total, unconditioned love. And Andrea doesn't seem to be picking up. She fell asleep while me and Lango were speaking. I'm sure that was because of Lango, not because of Lisa. I'm joking. I think I did most of the talking. Okay, guys, I love you. Bye.